It's Con Carne. Let's eat in the car. It's Con Carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
And welcome back to the working week. This is Con Carne. Still stuck here at home, so it is Quarantine Con Carne, presented by our friends at Siren Records in McHenry. You know, Record Store Day is coming up. This month's version of Record Store Day, it's happening on Black Friday. If you're looking for that must-have Record Store Day vinyl, head in the direction of Siren Records in McHenry. So I'm James Van Alstyne. Tomorrow morning, I'll be doing this. I'm not doing a podcast tomorrow night. I'm doing something tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, join me back here on Con Carne. Raymond Watts from Pig, one of the founding members of KMFDM, will be joining me from overseas. He is amazing. The new Pig album is fantastic, and we'll be chatting bright and early over donuts and coffee. But joining me tonight, it is a band from Chicago who just put out their first album. The album is called Fixed Against Forever. They are Wrong War. It is Dan, Dave, Matthias, and Pat. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, James.
Earlier today, previously on Wrong War, Pat posted on social media, who's ready for some tube and zoom action tonight with Wrong War on Con Carne? Let's get into this. Let's do this. What, you're not serious?
Let's just finish this beer. Right.
You call yourself punk rock.
Man, I just put away the tubes.
So, Wrong War. Here we are, life under Zoom. You guys started really kicking into high gear during the pandemic. Like you're basically like a year old, but you really started accelerating the band during all this nonsense, during this dumpster fire year. Tricky time to really rev up as a new band, but you did it.
Yeah, you want to field that one, Pat?
No, you.
I think really Pat started to put this thing together, a year and a half ago?
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah, Pat started, he's known Dave for a long time. Pat and I met each other through some neighborhood parties, kind of hit it off by knowing, I kind of thought when I moved out to the suburbs, I was not going to be in a band anymore, but Pat kind of talked me to come back into it through some, being fans of some mutual bands. And then him and Dave have been friends forever. We actually did one show pre-pandemic, like a year ago from now.
That's right.
And then Matt joined after that, and we kind of refigured things out. So really, once the restrictions loosened up over the summer, we were able to get into a studio and record. So kind of worked out for us in that way.
You got it in at the right time.
Yeah, because I don't think it'd be happening now.
Yeah, timing is everything. I'm impressed that you met through neighborhood parties. I don't know my neighbors at all. I just don't. Like, no one's friendly, no one's nice, no one seems interested in anyone else. Yeah. I like that you have that little community wherever you are.
Pat's also the mayor of the town, so
it sure feels like it. Yeah.
All building permits run through Pat.
Yeah, he can be very convincing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple practices in before everything went south, right? And then we took our 3 or 4 months off where we were just sort of strategizing and planning and not really practicing or writing anything until things kind of settled a little bit. We could find a way to practice relatively safely and then eventually get into the studio to record. But it was a challenge for sure. I mean, awkward.
And there was a short time where we were trying to figure out how to all record at home, and we were all, and that was going nowhere.
And Matt, you were the last piece of the puzzle, right? You were these guys were kind of grooving, and then they locked you in. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I told a story not too long ago, but I'd met Pat. Like, I've lived out in this area about 8 years or so. The house we bought needed a ton of work, and I had hired Pat's company to put windows into the house, and we were going over. Yeah, we were going over, I don't know, grill patterns and sashes or whatever that terminology is in Windows. And, Pat saw my record cabinet, and then we started talking about people we both know in the Chicago area and old punk and old Discord releases, and then our kids have been in the same class I think since kindergarten maybe.
Yeah.
So we've just seen each other around, and we know we have similar interests. Pat had been playing a couple other bands, and then he kind of threw this out. And at first, I was like, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've done music. I think the last active band I had was in 2003, 2004, something like that. So life's busy now, and I wasn't sure at first, but I bit, and I'm glad I did, 'cause it's been a lot of fun. So.
Well, the album, again, is Fixed Against Forever. It is short, fast, to the point. This is a political album whose songs aren't overtly political. You can, as a listener, you can interpret them however you want, but I listen to a song like Direct Function, and I hear politics or raging against politics throughout the album.
I think lyrically that it's a personal album for me in terms of like the way relationships have changed over the last, 10 to 15 years, really, and more, more to the point, the last 3.5, 4 years, and how you kind of have to like work that out, whether it be with entire groups of people or individuals, I think. So, it's got a political tinge to it because it's a personal for me, for sure. I think for me, when I approach writing lyrics and stuff, if I think back to when I first got into music, like really started liking music, post discovering bands like Devo and the Sparks, and really digging into like punk. I grew up in small town Michigan, and for me, punk was my way out, window to a larger world. And I think like through the years, I've often thought, and particularly thought about it a lot when I was writing these lyrics, was that, I don't think anything I write or any song that we make, it's not going to change necessarily like anything directly, but maybe there's that me when I was, 13 or 14 years old, who like hears music and it opens some door, some window, and gets people thinking, gets kids thinking more than anything. Do a bunch of aging, gray-haired, punks reach the 13, 14-year-old kid these days? I don't know, maybe, but that's where I like to think it was going, And
in answer to that question, I think so. I think so. I think if you go to Riot Fest, this cross-generational thing, you see kids who are high school age mixing it up with you crazy graybeards. us crazy.
Yeah, you fit in with that one too.
Yeah. I caught myself there. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. But speaking about politics, this is something I've come back to a couple times during this pandemic. I'm surprised that more bands aren't writing political stuff. I'm surprised that more bands aren't pushing big middle fingers at the existing establishment songs than are right now. Or maybe I'm not hearing, but it sure doesn't seem like there's a lot of that stuff going on. And if ever there was a time, I would think this year would be it.
I'll take that one. I've seen a lot of my friends have been pretty honest about where they're at with their music, and a lot of people are like, I think people are struggling right now to like, at least certain people are like struggling to be creative, like that there's a lack of motivation, even though there's all the inspiration in the world. If you just right in front of our faces, it also can become a little bit overwhelming. The last several months, especially, we've all just had everything just pounded in our face like every day.
Yeah.
Where I think people are, I guess, lacking the motivation to like do it, but hopefully that's changing. I know a lot of friends of mine just started practicing again for the first time in months, so we'll see. Hopefully it's there.
And certainly that is something I've heard time and again throughout the pandemic. It's really hard. People are mourning the loss of jobs, livelihoods, health, loved ones. This is a tough time to navigate through. You guys found the creative spark. What was different with you?
For me personally, I don't know how I'd be getting through it without music. I'm not the kind of person that like sits and listens to music all the time. Like I like to create things, and I like doing that with friends. And we found a way to be able to do that in a time that's, been a difficult year, probably for most people. For me, there's a couple of things that, helps keep me kind of sane, and music has always been one of them. And the human connection, even though, we're obviously not hanging out together as much as, Pat and I used to when we were, 23 in a band, but, having that human connection, even if it's just texting each other song ideas, or, Pat sending me something, hey, I just came up with this, what do you think about that? And then me, picking up my bass at, 11:30 at night and coming up with something that comes back and sending it back, like that collaboration and that companionship, even though you're not always physically there, to me has been like, a lifesaver. And I think it has been for, hopefully a lot of people too, if they found a way to kind of maintain that human connection during a time when it's kind of been harder for a lot of people to do that.
Sure. I would tell a lot of bands early on in the pandemic who questioned whether or not to put music out during the pandemic, would say, please do it. Don't wait for when you can tour to support it. Get content out there. We music listeners, we fans are craving that connection to music, just as the creators enjoy making the music and count on making in that creative process. This is an opiate for us, being able to hear it. So I'm glad you guys cranked this out.
We've all been on probably all sides of it, where like, including being in bands and having a great kind of batch of songs, and like they never get put out. You know what I mean? For one reason or another. So I think once we kind of realized that this was sort of clicking and was, had some legs, we were like the exact opposite. We were all in to make it happen fast and get it out to the world as soon as possible, to the point where even amongst the four of us, it was like, no way, there's not enough time. We'll never be able to get it done. And we were like, we set, it was pretty obvious choice. We set election day as a deadline. And just figured like, we'll worry about everything else later. Let's just get it out digitally as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I think originally our plan was to demo these songs, like to record them locally and just basically demo them for a recording session later when we, and then, once we got into the thick of it, we were like, oh, this is sounding good. We can finish this and do another batch of songs essentially next time around, hopefully.
Yep.
So looking ahead, this album just came out. Obviously, you figured out your footing. This is a very accomplished sounding album. You guys really, it clicked, and it sounds. Forget this whole demo concept. This sounds like a big honkin' punk rock record.
You know what's kind of funny? Like Pat, Dan, and I were playing together as a 3-piece for a while before we really had before Matt was even an option, or we knew that he was available or interested to play with us. And
still under contract. Yeah.
He was still under contract, right? And part of the reasons we were kind of keeping it as a 3-piece, I think, was because it made it really simple. It's just 3 people, 3 schedules. We can find 2 hours a week to get together and do it. And part of our kind of hesitation to adding a 4th person, I think, was just because of what we were dealing with and the complications that might bring. But I think, once we made that decision, and that decision was made like the first time Matt came and, brought his ideas, it was obviously a no-brainer. Like Pat and I have, sang in bands before, but it was nothing like what Matt brought. That energy was something that, and that intensity was something that was lacking, and Matt brought that, and then some. And I think from there we really got excited about, okay, maybe we got a little bit of window here. Let's do something with it. And that's kind of where it went.
And with Matt bringing up that it was going to be a demo originally, we went in and recorded with our friend Mike Manti in Brookfield in his house. And got to give him props because, like, I think it sounded better than any of us thought it would. So then it just, we're like, once you started mixing it, we're like, oh shit, well this.
Yeah, I've recorded a lot of demos in my day, and we came out of there that after that first night of tracking or whatever, I was like, oh, this already sounds a million times better than any demo I've ever recorded. So,
Matt, focusing on you for a second, coming up in Detroit and leaving Detroit, that area, compare the scene that you came up into the scene you're in now.
Well, I mean, I lived in Detroit through the mid 90s, was involved in a couple of punk venues and a bunch of bands and a record label in Michigan back then. So I was pretty involved. So it was a very different time for me. Where I think like that was the focus of my whole life. I mean, I was going to college and doing the things I was supposed to be doing, but like, I thought about music all the time. When can we play out? When can we, what bands are coming through? Who's doing shows? What records can we put out? And I left Michigan and moved around a bit before landing in Chicago. And I spent, I don't know, maybe about 5 or 6 years playing in some bands locally here in Chicago, going to shows, and then kind of burnt out on a lot of it. Burnt out on the record label for sure. I closed that down after about 13 years and just got really busy with other things. I mean, this is even all before family and all of that. And so, I mean, it's just very different for me now. I mean, like I'm older. I've kind of been away for maybe 10 years or so at this point. But if it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't know if I would be doing some of the things I'm doing right now. And that is I've gone back and I've revisited the 25 plus releases I put out under my label back in the 90s. I've been digitizing them, getting them available in various streaming formats. And then the other catalyst, of course, was to get this Wrong War LP, I guess EP LP, somewhere in between, out also. So, I mean, those two things together, like, made me like kind of click the switch and be like, oh yeah, this was a lot of fun. And where did the last 10 years, go in that regards? So
you mentioned the 90s. There's a song on Fixed Against Forever in particular, All You Ever Knew, which to me has a total 90s vibe to it.
Yeah, I've had a few people say that. Yeah. That's
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong.
Yeah, no.
And when you mentioned LP, EP, when you guys first put this album out, when you pushed it out into the universe, I did see a lot of people commenting, and I'd like to echo that. We want to see this on vinyl.
Yeah, we've gotten that a bit. So, I mean, it'll happen.
Awesome. That's all we need to know right now.
It'll definitely happen. It's just a matter of who's doing it and when, I guess, but it'll happen.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So again, the album is Fixed Against Forever. It is streamable in all the places where streaming happens. You are Wrong War, and pretty awesome debut, guys. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.